What's up, you guys? Today's going to be a huge album roundup of tons of albums that have come out over the past 2 months because I'm feeling anxious about how much music is written in my little journal of albums that I've listened to that I haven't reviewed because the last 2 months have been so stacked with releases. Now, if you watch this channel often, you'll have noticed that I have been doing more solo reviews in the last few months. Everything from Midland to the Highwaymen, even Taylor Swift, John Party, Riley Green, Zac Brown again, Hardy. I've covered all of these albums as best as I can.
I'm baking muffins as best as I can!
But there's just so much that's out there right now, and I've been feeling like anxious, knowing that it's looming over my head. I need to weigh in on Vince Gill, I need to weigh in on Whiskey Myers, all sorts of things. So this is going to cover like 11 or 12 albums in this video, and I'm not going to cover Cody Jinks. He'll get his own video when his second album of this double release drops, but these are just going to be kind of quick takes on albums that I've listened to, have some thoughts on, and want to share with you. So timestamps will be below if you want to just click around and hear the reviews of the stuff that you're interested in. First album I want to talk about is Tanya Tucker's While I'm Livin'. Tanya Tucker is someone that obviously I know she got famous at a very young age with her song Delta Dawn, but I can't say I know a ton about the history of her career. I feel like I know a little bit more about her personal life just because it's prolific. But Tanya Tucker hasn't been on the scene, but I know she's just so respected by everyone in country music. And this is her first album of original material in like 17 years, and it was really kind of put together by Brandi Carlile, sort of calling her to make more music. And so this album was primarily written by Brandi Carlile and Tim and Phil Hanseroth, who are part of Brandi Carlile's band. They wrote almost all the songs on here. There's a cover of The House That Built Me, there's a few others, but on the whole, this was music written for Tanya Tucker to get back in the studio. Now, I totally see why Brandi Carlile wanted Tanya to make music again, and because her voice is incredible. Her voice has such rasp in it now and such just fearsomeness. So on a song like I Don't Owe You Anything, which is definitely my favorite song on this record, where she's just getting to show off some of her natural sass and her delivery, it's so fun to listen to her. There's a lot of themes of travel on this record, songs like The Wheels of Laredo and Mustang Ridge and Seminole Wind Calling, and those songs are all good, and it has this almost heartland sunset vibe to much of the record, and Tanya sounds really good on it, but I do think that it feels a little impersonal. It feels, yeah, like this was written for her, and so nothing is too specific. That's why I think a song like I Don't Owe You Anything, where you're really in sort of a relationship dispute, it really works. Whereas some of these, I just feel like the album, it didn't click with me because I didn't feel like it was rooted in Tanya's narrative. But I really appreciate how deliberate every step of this relaunch has been. I like that they kind of brought her out with some nice imagery, some pink hair, some good videos, and I just feel like they're really done. They've done the damn thing when it comes to relaunching, and I do feel like, yeah, I am taking a second look and being like, oh yeah, Tanya Tucker, someone I should know more about. So I'll give the album a 6 out of 10, but I'll give the idea of it like an 8 out of 10. Next I want to talk about Vince Gill's Okie. Now, I really, really like this album. I think it's a little bit maudlin, it feels a little bit like an after-school special, and strangely, that's what I like about it. I think Vince Gill has sort of become everyone's proverbial grandfather, who is patient and kind and thoughtful. This is not the grandfather that's sitting on his lawn saying, I think the world sucks. It's the grandfather that has become really gentle and subdued and thoughtful in his older age, and really this album is a call for unity and a call for civility, a call for intentionality with our words and how we treat one another, and it's really confessional in how it approaches that. Vince Gill says on this record that he wants to be an honest man. He doesn't care so much about getting into the left-right dispute where we stop seeing each other. He's really inviting you to see him, and maybe through that experience to see one another. He actually opens up about his own abuse, where I guess he was sexually abused, as he's opened up about in the press, and on a song called Forever Changed. And just the saying, like, you know, when someone is touched, when something happens to them, they're forever changed. And he just kind of is inviting you to feel the weight of that horror. On another song on here, He says, what choice will you make? It's about basically, if you get pregnant, that's a big decision. Are you going to keep the baby? What choice will you make? He doesn't really take harsh stances on this. He really invites you to think about things. We get into race issues. We get into prayer. We get into just the idea of, are you going to be combative in society or are you going to be unified? We even get a little gentle Vince Gill protest in Nothing Like a Guy Clark song, in which he's just owning how wonderful Guy Clark's music is, and it almost reminds me of Aaron Watson's The Ghost of Guy Clark, which he released earlier this year. It's becoming a good protest method to just claim your love of Guy Clark. But I really love that this record is so gentle. I really think our society, and I do it too, I'm not saying it's just society's fault. I think we value combativeness, anger, hatred, drama. It's fun to read, it's fun to follow, but it brings out something bad in us. And I look at Vince Gill and I'm like, okay, here's a man who's becoming more thoughtful about his words, who's becoming prayerful, who is kind, who's generous. And I don't know that every song on this album has some big hook. A lot of them don't, although a lot of them do. I mean, I always remember I Don't Want to Ride the Rails No More, Honest Man, Forever Changed, When My Amy Prays. There's a lot of melodies that I can recall really easily. But even where this album is less hooky, less exciting, I think it's so thoughtful and it's important that this type of discourse remains a piece of discourse. And so I'm like proud of him for making it. It gives me something kind of aspirational to look at, and I'm just like, man, Vince Gill is one of the good guys. So I would give this album like a 7.9 out of 10. After that, we got Trisha Yearwood's Every Girl. Now, this is an album that I really wanted to like, but I just didn't. I feel like this album makes no sense. Like, one song does not go with the next song, does not go with the next song at all. Trisha obviously has a great voice, and I think a lot of these songs can stand on their own, but they make no sense as an album. I mean, that's very true of a song like The Matador, which is a Gresham Peters, right? I don't really get why that's here on this album at all. I think some of the duets that are on this record, like her one with her husband, Garth Brooks, it's not much of anything. Garth is almost kind of buried in it. Sonically, I think this feels a lot more almost like a Hallmark pop soundtrack. It does remind me of a Hallmark movie. You get weird disco moments. Then we get a really aggressively country moment with this cover of Bible in a 44, which is an Ashley McBryde song. I think Trisha delivers it well, but I don't know. I really prefer the Ashley McBryde version of it. All in all, I just, like, I didn't quite get what this thing was going for. I do really actually like the opening single of this, Every Girl in This Town. I think that's my favorite song on the record by a long shot. And like I said, I don't know, maybe just listening to the record was such a strange experience where it didn't feel like it all went together, so it was hard to kind of get into it, but I would just give this like a 4 out of 10. Now, I know a lot of y'all have been asking me to check out Home Free. I don't know how to review an a cappella band. I don't. I was once in an a cappella group. That was a strange year of my life, but I don't know, it's kind of inherently cheesy. You're not going to get some glowing review from me. I don't quite understand what makes something country a cappella, but I'm into the fact that they're writing their own music now. This isn't just covers. I'm intrigued, okay? I like them. They're obviously talented. They're obviously killing it because they're selling out wherever they go. But I would just need to think more about, like, do I have a take on Home Free? I'm more just like, sounds nice. Let it be its own video one day down the road, okay? I'm just letting you know I've heard your requests. And also, Austin, who's in the band, buddy of mine, if you see this little clip, hello. Then I want to talk about this record called Love and the Dark by Jason Hawk Harris. Now, Jason is someone that a bunch of you all recommended to me. I didn't know anything about him, but I really, really loved this album. It's moody, cerebral. The songwriting on it is absolutely stunning. If you're someone that likes the songwriting of Jason Isbell, I think you will really be a fan of Jason Hawk Harris as well. I mean, let me just take out a few little stanzas from songs I love. This album, I should say this too, this album is a lot about loss, confusion. He's lost his mother. He's drinking too much. You've got addiction. You've got death. You've got questioning God. I mean, this is a really full, heavy, beautiful record. It's very cerebral. I mean, you get these kind of ambient, odd, plinky, kind of twinkling tones sort of in the latter half of the record as it just starts to bend the sonics of country music a little bit. But I think it's cool. Everything feels really thoughtful on it, and I think it does capture a lot of the light and dark that he's singing about. The first verse of Phantom Limb is just describing how his clothes smell of death. I got this shirt, smells like the viewing, formaldehyde, tobacco, and tulips. I've washed it 10 times and it won't come out. No matter how long it's been, I can't forget. I smell it right now, it won't come out. I mean, that's dark, that's heavy, but it's so beautiful. Phantom Limb is definitely my favorite song on this whole record. But I think you should definitely check it out. I'll give it an 8.5 out of 10. Sturgill Simpson's album Sound and Fury. It's psychedelic rock. It's not really my thing. I like really kind of tighter compositions, and this is not that. These are very indulgent, loud, scuzzy, like tons of just like reverb and rocking feedback noises. It's fine. It's fine. I'm glad Sturgill's doing what he wants to do. It ain't a country record, and I'm here for just kind of these tighter songs. Like, I was really a High Top Mountain fan. That's the kind of brand of Sturgill I liked the most of any of the iterations of Sturgill. So I'm fine. He can do what he wants. I do hear the quality in this a lot. I wish he would stop delivering everything with such a mumble, because it's hard to understand him. That makes it hard to connect to the music. I think that seems to be part of the point. Like, Sturgill doesn't want to be so understood, which annoys me. I love this one song on the record called Mercury in Retrograde. It's basically taken a shot at music critics and fans and media people like me, calling them just like sycophants that want to get on his tour bus and actually be his friend. But I think that song is by far, for me, the standout on the record. But I would give it a 5.5 out of 10. I did check out the new Lumineers record, and I'm not going to get into a whole review of it here, but I would absolutely say, if you want to see the most beautiful music videos I've ever seen, and pretend like you're watching the show Lost and kind of piece together a theory of what's been happening with this family, you must go check out the Lumineers' new music videos. They're very dark. This is an album about addiction, but they are like the most gorgeous filmmaking I think I've ever seen in music videos before. So absolutely go check them out. Maybe Gloria would be a good place to start. But that's a dark, sad, and pretty sparse album. I've also been dipping my toe into Whiskey Myers. Now, Whiskey Myers I kind of lump in there with Blackberry Smoke, maybe even a little bit like American Aquarium, but bands that are probably more like in the southern rock vibe than they are just in the straight up country vibe. But I really have never listened to a full Whiskey Myers album before. I just know a few of their big songs. Like, I know Mud kind of blew up last year. I know Virginia because I live in Virginia and people play that song. But I never really sat down with a full album. And I had a ton of fun with their album, which is just called Whiskey Myers. They have a really warm sound. It actually reminds me of Bishop Gunn, if you're a Bishop Gunn fan. A lot of soul, but a lot of that kind of country and rock kind of all mixing. It feels, you know, out of the tradition of maybe, it's not Lynyrd Skynyrd. It's like a little funkier and lighter than that. Maybe more out of like the Rolling Stones. But I really like it. I really, really like the sound. I personally want a little more introspection, and I feel like from some of the old stuff I've heard, they had a few more slower songs, but the moments where it's not so rockin' are my favorite on this record. So I love Rolling Stone. I can't stop listening to Rolling Stone. That is like gonna be one of my very favorite songs this year. And I also really do like, I mean, this is a lot heavier of a song, but Glitter Ain't Gold I think is a jam and a half. Like I said, I'm a fledgling Whiskey Myers fan, and I try not to weigh in any kind of thorough way unless I've really, really thoroughly gotten into a band and I kind of know more about them. I'm just better at giving context than I am at kind of having some new, fresh take. So I don't want to say too much about Whiskey Myers off the bat, but look, they debuted at #1 on the country chart, even ahead of John Party, and on the rock chart at the same time. They're obviously a big deal. I love to see these guys do it their own way, and as far as I can tell, they're pretty darn good. Just on my initial kind of listen through the album, I'll give it a 7 out of 10, but I look forward to really diving in deeper. I also checked out Brantley Gilbert's Fire and Brimstone. Now guys, I'm not a Brantley Gilbert fan. I mean, I know he is capable of making some good stuff, but on the whole, I find his brand of sort of trying to say, we're so different us that live out here in the sticks, and I find it really off-putting because I think music is about bringing people together, and I always feel like Brantley, it's that same kind of like machismo, like trying to enfranchise the redneck community in a bitter way that just I think is not the spirit of music or what country music is. And yet obviously there's a power in that kind of anger that I think Brantley Gilbert captures, because he has a big audience of people that maybe they do feel angry, maybe they do feel overlooked in America, and they're drawn to it. Maybe I'm way overanalyzing it, and this is such like a ivory tower intellectual thing to be saying. That's not who I want to be, but it's who I am. But like Brantley often on this album has moments where you're like, wow, you're really thoughtful and smart. And then other times you're like, this is the dumbest album on earth. Sometimes this album is a dumpster fire, and sometimes there is some brimstone. There's some real truth in what he's speaking. That's how I'll work the title in. You know, Not Like Us is a stupid song. It's exactly that kind of othering song that I don't like. There's another one on here called New Money, which I don't know if anyone has told, you know, Red Akins and Brock Berryhill and Brantley Gilbert what new money means, but it's not a good thing. They're trying to describe this girl as new money. And there's so many references to girls riding in the shotgun seat, like hair blowing in the wind all through this record, and I'm like, we haven't moved on from this yet? This is a punchline. That is a punchline of a line. No one likes those lines anymore. But yeah, he's rolling with a dime on that song. So there's some real stupidity on this record, and yet there's some real beauty on this record too. The title track, Fire and Brimstone, which features Jamie Johnson and Alison Krauss, he got some great features on this record, is basically about his conversion, about like, he wrote it himself. It's just about like reaching for a bottle of whiskey, but he finds a Bible instead, and he goes to church, and he's resentful, and then he's converted by the end of the song. It's really interesting and different than I would have expected from Brantley Gilbert. Similarly on this record, he's got another song called Bad Boy, where he's almost confronting his shame and trying not to look at himself as such a bad boy. He's got a song in here called Man That Hung the Moon that's a really beautiful song about fatherhood. But then there's a lot of stupidity on this too. Fired Up, which just sounds like fart up, and Welcome to Hayesville is this song that I do not know how he got Willie Nelson and Lucas Nelson to feature on this, but it's just a song about smoking pot. So, man, it's a real schizo record. I feel like I can't go higher than like a 4 out of 10. I also want to say a shout out to my friend Kelleigh Bannen for her new record, Favorite Colors. I'm not going to review it. Kelly and I are very friendly. She's a fellow UVA alumni, but I think that this record is a really good sort of, if you're looking for what is an example of kind of a Nashville country record, like a good cross-section of the types of sounds that you might hear, I think this would be a good record. My favorite song on it is actually the opener, which is called Damn, I Still Love You. I love that. For some reason, damn, I still love you. It's stuck in my head all the time. So, bravo, Kelly, on getting that out. The final thing I want to talk about isn't a country record, but it's just, they're my soul band, so I just want to mention them, and it's my channel, and I can talk about whatever I want to. And it's the Avett Brothers. They have a new record called Closer Than Together. I love the Avett Brothers. I've been on board with them for 12 years now. I'm just on the journey with them. And Closer Than Together is a much more, in some ways, subdued record from them as they continue to grow as like fathers and husbands. But in other ways, they're really stepping into politics. They're getting a lot more political on this record, which is interesting. Definitely not what drew me to them at first. I was so drawn in to the fact that these were guys considering their own shame. Honestly, I should make a separate video about the Avett Brothers because I love them and have a lot of thoughts, but let me just say that this record, I think, has a few key highlights. My favorite song on it is the simplest song on this whole thing. It's called Tell the Truth. It's a, you know, that's like a big thing for me, is just have integrity with yourself, with others, and I've had to really learn and practice that in my own life. And the literal chorus of this is so simple. Tell the truth to yourself and the rest will fall in place. And I think it's also a really pretty song. Of the political songs on this record, I think Bang Bang is kind of dumb. It sort of equates gun violence with just seeing guns in movies, and I just feel like history doesn't bear out this idea that we're suddenly more violent. I think, like, if you look at history, it's been brutal and violent all along, whether or not media was there. But I really do love the song We Americans. I think, like, that song, when I heard it for the first time, I was kind of like, oh, you're going Hollywood, and you're just like, we're gonna use our audience to be political now. And I found myself resenting it. As the song went on, I found myself kind of nodding along and being like, you know, they're saying something thoughtful and really, really smart. And it actually did open my mind. So there you go. I think, like, I'm willing to be convinced by great music, and We Americans is great music. They're on the journey. I'm on the journey with them. It's a little more political. That's not my thing as much. I think you got to start with yourself. That's just kind of my life philosophy. Most people can't control themselves, so why are they worried about how we control the world? But that's not how everyone sees it, and I can see why, as a band that has gotten really famous, you might be really drawn into kind of the stories that affect a broad number of people more than just the individual. Maybe. I would give this one, oh man, I probably have my whole own grading curve for the Avett Brothers, because I've heard every single thing they ever put out. But within their canon, I'll give this one like a 6 out of 10. I feel like anything they do is already a 9 out of 10, you know? That's it for this video, and that's all the things that I've talked about. I honestly feel such a weight lifted off me having even just done this little album review. I don't know why they stress me out so much. I think it's a lot of work to listen to that much music, and it's like, oh, woe is me, but you know, it is. You have to, like, think about it. What are they saying? Try and sum it up. Y'all don't care. Guys, it's freaking 2 in the morning, and I'm shooting this, but I did it. So, yay, let me know your thoughts. I know I probably missed some albums, but it's all good. We'll be good. Bye, y'all.